Welcome back to Proline. First of all, I'd like to start off by congratulating the San Francisco Giants on winning the World Series. It was a short series. Nobody thought that would happen. But great job, guys. And now we're only down to 3 sports to handicap. We've got, of course, hockey at the top of the list. And you got college and pro football. And, of course, now we have basketball in the NBA. But the colleges are starting as well. So this is a very busy time of the year for us. In pro football, we got drama. Dallas is out of it. 1-6 on the season. I don't know what they're supposed to do down there. I don't feel sorry for Jerry Jones. He has too much money to feel sorry for. Minnesota, you got this circus going on. There were Favre. They're picking him up at the airport. He doesn't know he's coming back. Now you got Mosh. You bring him in for 3 weeks. Childress says, I think he's kind of lost it. Maybe he should be the first coach to go. Washington, I don't know what Shanahan and McNabb's going on there, but why pick the guy up if you can't let him finish the game? Grossman? Give me a Grossman? Really? Remember what he did in the Super Bowl against the forget about that. Now, at the bottom of the league, or actually they're now at the top of the league, Kansas City, Oakland, Tampa Bay. This is an upside down season, Dave.
Welcome to the NFL.
Yeah.
It's like this every year. It's just that the teams change from season to season as to who surprises. Some fascinating things taking place on the gridiron. You mentioned the situation in Washington. That's been a mess all along. At times I think maybe the coaches get a little bit too wrapped up in their own egos. I will tell you this. I had the Detroit Lions for my biggest play on Sunday, and there was nobody happier than I was, Al, when I saw Rex Grossman appear on the field at the end of the game. And sure enough, turnover touchdown, game over, as soon as he comes in.
Yeah, I had Detroit as well. You talked about the NBA, and the difference between the NBA and the NFL is that the NBA, this is going to be the worst NBA season in years. It's going to be the most anticlimactic NBA season. You can put the Lakers and the Heat in the finals right now, with apologies to Scott's Celtics. I mean, it's going to be those two teams, and I'm not even looking forward to the season. I'm a San Antonio Spurs fan, and you can pretty much guarantee that the Lakers and Heat are going to meet up in the finals, and that's why the NFL is so great, because you don't know what's going to happen from week to week, and we can pretty much just press fast forward and go to June in the NBA right now, guys.
Night before the season opener, we're talking NBA on this side of the table for a minute. Night before the season opener, Steve Nash says, with this lineup, and it wasn't a knock against his team, by the way, he goes, with this lineup, we will not go deep into the playoffs. We need some help. Steve Nash, ultimate team player. So I know it wasn't against the team. That was against the organization for letting a guy like Amari Stoudemire slip away. You mentioned, no offense to the Celtics, no offense to Spurs fans. The Spurs, we jumped on them early going right off the bat of the opener because we read all this material about Greg Popovich wanting his team to, and he only does that once. You don't have to say Popovich, it's Popovich. I was just doing that for effect. But anyway, he talked about how he was going to speed up the game, and they did that first game. There were 231 points in the contest, and then all of a sudden they collapsed with some bad shooting, and we'll see how they come back and if they play that fast pace once they get a little bit deeper into the season. But you're right, man, it is the Heat and the Lakers. It is theirs to lose if those two teams stay healthy. I think you're going to catch the Lakers in December, maybe in January, back-to-back nights, maybe 3 or 4 nights. You're going to catch the Lakers maybe sitting some stars down for more minutes than they're used to, because this team this year, they're not about winning 70 games. They're about three-peat. That's what they're about this year.
You know what's interesting, though, is you're right. I mean, I completely completely agree that there's not much competitive balance in the NBA. But the interesting thing is, from a fan standpoint and a business standpoint, that's not a bad thing. We just saw a perfect you want super teams. That's what people seem to gravitate to. We just saw a perfect example. Look at baseball's outstanding competitive balance, particularly this year. 2 brand new teams in the World Series in the Giants and Rangers. And as far as the ratings go, it was absolutely a disaster. So it's tough to balance the ratings and the business as opposed to what we really want as fans.
They're talking consolidation in some of these sports right now because the talent is spread so thin. You might start seeing that with the economy and everything else. We might start seeing fewer and fewer teams because the markets can't support them. We're going to come right back. We got some big college football games to talk about. The biggest players always zero in on the biggest games. And last week, I hit 2 big games I'm going to tell you about. But this week, I'm offering you a triple header of high roller releases. This is $1,500 of big games, and it's just yours for $10. Step out with the big players this weekend and go 3-0. I nailed the Raiders on Sunday and the Colts on Monday with these monster plays. Make sure you make the call, 1-866-841-1655. And don't forget, for free plays each and every day. Just text WINNER, WINNER, to 313131. You'll have winners sent to your phone each and every day. Have a huge weekend. Make the call, 1-866-841-1655. Play with the big boys and win big. And don't forget to text WINNER to 313131.
Hi, I'm Adam McMorty. We're on absolute fire. Last week, everyone called for our Vegas strip move play on the Detroit Lions. An easy winner. Those games now 18-1 on the season with a push. And our TV offers this year are now 9-1, 90%. And today, it's the biggest and best of the entire season. It's my Fortune 500 Club College Football Game of the Year. Now, you can go online, and it's only $500 there. But here, it's just $25. It's the deal of the century. Call right now, toll free. 866-896-1628. It's my Fortune 500 Club Game of the Year in college football. These plays lifetime, 78 and 38. Call right now, toll free, 866-896-1628. It's only $25, a $500 value. It's yours today, only $25, 866-896-1628. Don't pay $500 online. Get it right now for just $25. My Fortune 500 Club Game of the Year in college football. Call now.
There are some great college football games this weekend, and the one we're going to talk about right now is one of those. Arizona travels to Stanford. Both of these teams are 7-1 on the season, both playing very well. Arizona has a couple of injuries to their quarterbacks, but I think both of them are going to be ready for this game. So we got Stanford hosting Arizona. I think we're looking at a line of 9.5 and 56, Scott.
Yeah, I got to think these two are going to fight it out in a high-scoring affair, just like last year was 43-38, the final score, 81 points on the board. A lot of coaches over the last couple of seasons have talked about the Stanford Cardinal being the most physical team they played all year. Pac-10 teams say, boy, we get beat up by this team in the trenches. I think it still happened in offense, but not so much on defense. Before they played a fading Washington team and completely annihilated that Washington offense, they gave up 52, 35, and 28 points in the previous 3 games. They're still scoring a ton themselves. Andrew Luck has the offense going crazy. In fact, their low on the season is 31 points, and the other 7 games they played in, they've scored at least 35 points. So I think you're going to see points traded back and forth. I like the over in this game. Jimmy already said Nick Foles says that he's going to play. He said he's ready. If he can't, they got a nice backup in Matt Scott, who had a great game, did have a little hand injury, but I think both guys are going to be ready. We're going to see some points scored in this one.
Well, I like Stanford in the game, and I think that I'm going to look past the 2 bad games, if you want to call them, that the Stanford had. I think what happened is you saw Oregon. They just got crushed. They got run over in the second half of the Oregon game after being up big early. And the malaise set in for Stanford after that. They struggled against the USC team that they probably should have handled a little easier than that. And then had a walkover against Washington State, could not get motivated, and only won the game by 10 points. But you saw Stanford get back on the beam last week. This is a well-coached football team with a lot of talent. I think Arizona is pretty well coached as well, and they've got a lot of talent, but not as much as Stanford. And going on the road, I think you're going to find Arizona having problems in this game. It's a big number, and that actually indicates to me that the odds makers may be tipping their hand a little bit here. Al, I think Stanford is going to get the job done in this contest.
Well, I totally agree with you, Dave. This is a great play from a technical perspective. The Arizona Wildcats are playing their second straight road game, and that's the key for me here. Is college football teams in the second straight road game are a terrible 38 and 83 against the spread. If they won by 8 points or less their previous game, and that's what they did last week. They won 29-21 at the Rose Bowl versus UCLA, and now they're getting less than 27 points down to pick them, and they're matched up against an opponent off a conference win. These teams are just dreadful against the spread over the last 31 years, 38 and 83. I'm going to lay the points with Stanford. Jim?
I love those technical trends, Al. Thanks. We're going to come back with what I think is the biggest game on the card this Saturday, and that's TCU at Utah. These two teams are monsters, and when the public sees this, because ESPN is going to be there to cover this game, it's really big for the Mountain West. It's really big in college football. We're right back.
Hi, everybody. Scott Spreitzer from Smash Mouth Sports, and it's November. And each November, we have our $1 per day in all sports giveaway. You don't want to miss out. You're going to get the final 25 days of November for $25, $1 per day. That includes all sports. college basketball, the NBA, the NFL, college football. It all starts with my Morning Massacre Game of the Year going at 12 noon Eastern, 9 a.m. Pacific on Saturday. The play is available right now at Smash Mouth Sports. It's all yours for $1 per day, and then later this month, my college football Game of the Year included. 25 days for $25. All you got to do is call 1-866-896-1627. Do not sleep in, or you'll miss that Morning Massacre Game of the Year on Saturday. 1-866-896-1627.
Arkansas, South Carolina, TCU, Utah, Alabama, LSU, 3 of Saturday's biggest and best college football games, and all 3 are yours free on a recorded message. All you need to do is call my free pick phone right now, 1-888-633-1710. I'm going to give you the winners of all 3 of those games on the house, plus details on how to get my November college football game of the month. 22-7 on my last 29 college football games of the month. Details on how to get that game when you call my free pick phone. Get the TV triple header of the day loaded with dynamite information on those 3 huge games. Call now, 1-888-633-1710, and go 3-0 free.
One of the biggest games of the year, TCU at Utah. Huge game. Both teams are undefeated. Small spread. You got TCU 5, 4.5 or 5, and the total is 51.5 or 52. Al, what do you think?
You know what's interesting is I got an email last week from a client, and he asked me if he could have a pretty strong but pretty simple system that he could use, on a week-to-week basis. And this was actually one that I sent him, and I think this is a pretty interesting system. What I like to do in college football is take teams off big wins, especially when they're catching points at home. And that's what the Utah Utes are in this situation. Utah, the last 2 games, they won 28-23 and 59-6. Now, if you combine the margin of victory from those 2 games, you get 58 points. And what we want to do is play on revenging home dogs if they won their last 2 games combined by 44 or more points. These teams have covered the spread going back 31 years, a whopping 63% of the time. Last season, of course, Utah lost 55-27 to these Horned Frogs. That game was in Fort Worth. Utah dominates this team in Utah. I'm going to take the points with the home dog here. Dave?
I'll tell you what, these are 2 of the best coached teams in the entire country. There's Gary Patterson has a very interesting look. Everybody knows this about Patterson. His best recruits, regardless of where they went, most of these kids in high school play 2 ways. He'll tell them when he's recruiting them, if they're really good athletes, we're putting you on defense. That's what he sells, and it works. Meanwhile, Kyle Whittingham is as good as it gets at Utah. You could say they're 2 of the best kept secrets in the country because of the fact it's the Mountain West Conference, which is not on a major network like ESPN. Unfortunately, the Mountain does not have a very good TV contract. I think what you're going to see in this game is a defensive slugfest. This is not, to me, you're not going to see 50 points in this game. I think it's going to be a battle in the trenches, 2 extraordinarily quick defenses battling each other. Scott, I look for the under to come home.
2 years ago, I had TCU when they went to Utah, went to Salt Lake, and I think it was a Thursday night game, if I remember right. And TCU jumped out to an early 10-3 lead in the first quarter. Never scored again, but they were going up and down the field. They outgained Utah 444-275 and lost the game in Salt Lake on a last-second drive by the Utah Utes. Last year, I used TCU. Those of you who are with me remember we had TCU as a big revenge game of the year, and they clobbered the Utes 55-28. Those last 2 games, it's been total domination statistically by TCU, something like 970 yards to about 560, just destroying this team in the trenches. Now, Utah has the 6th ranked defense overall. They have a pretty good defense. How about TCU? Number 1 in total defense, number 1 in rush defense, number 1 in pass defense. They're number 1 in scoring defense. They allow 8.7 points per game. And how about this? They're the only team in college football that holds their opponents to less than 12.5 points per game. 4 points per game better than the Alabama Crimson Tide, and they hold their opponents to a 23% conversion rate on 3rd downs. Andy Dalton's the best quarterback on this field. TCU may be the best team in the country. No team in college football that I've seen gets after the football like this TCU defense. I mean, they really get after the ball carrier, and you'll see 6 guys making a tackle. So bottom line for me is Utah's a good football team. They're in that 15-20 range as far as rankings, as far as I'm concerned. TCU might be the best team in the nation. I gotta lay the points with TCU. They're finally going to win in Salt Lake.
Tough game to look at. I mean, look at the defense. Like you said, TCU 6 points, 7, 3, 0, and 0. 2 shutouts in the last 5 games. They don't give up any points, but they have an offense also. So statistically, this team may be the best team in the country. How about this? The Big East gets an automatic bid to a BCS Bowl. These 2 teams would crush any Big East team. It's a joke. We'll be right back with 2 great pro games.
Hi, I'm Adam McMorty. We're on absolute fire. Last week, everyone called for our Vegas strip move play on the Detroit Lions. An easy winner. Those games now 18-1 on the season with a push. And our TV offers this year are now 9-1, 90%. And today, it's the biggest and best of the entire season. It's my Fortune 500 Club college football game of the year. Now, you can go online, and it's only $500 there. But here, it's just $25. It's the deal of the century. Call right now, toll free. 866-896-1628. It's my Fortune 500 Club Game of the Year in college football. These plays lifetime, 78 and 38. Call right now, toll free. 866-896-1628. It's only $25, a $500 value. It's yours today, only $25. 866-896-1628. Don't pay $500 online. Get it right now for just $25. My Fortune 500 Club Game of the Year in college football. Call now.
Hi, everybody. Scott Spreitzer from Smash Mouth Sports. And it's November. And each November, we have our $1 per day in all sports giveaway. You don't want to miss out. You're going to get the final 25 days of November for $25. $1 per day. That includes all sports, college basketball, the NBA, the NFL, college football. It all starts with my Morning Massacre Game of the Year going at 12 noon Eastern, 9 a.m. Pacific on Saturday. The play is available right now at Smash Mouth Sports. It's all yours for $1 per day. And then later this month, my college football Game of the Year included. 25 days for $25. All you got to do is call 1-866-896-1627. Do not sleep in or you'll miss that Morning Massacre Game of the Year on Saturday. 1-866-896-1627.
The NFL has been a mystery to a lot of people. I know the people on this panel have done very well with it this year, but that's because we look at things differently. The teams at the bottom from last year are at the top. The teams from the top are now at the bottom. But one of the teams that's consistent, even though they're only 19th in the league, in offense, they're first in points scored, and they're very efficient. They actually win. Bill Belichick knows how to coach. He gets rid of players when he should. He adds the right ones at the right time. Dave, this guy's a genius.
Well, yeah, he's a great football coach, and he's a better coach now than he was with the Cleveland Browns. Sure. That's what happens when coaches get a second chance. They'll frequently learn from the first time around and be a lot better the second time around. They still can't stand him in Cleveland because he didn't win there, but they sure love Bill Belichick and the way he runs things in Foxborough. I'm impressed with Colt McCoy, who's taken over at the QB spot for the Cleveland Browns. He's going to be a star in this league, I believe, but right now, he's up against it in this matchup against the team that knows how to handle inexperienced players, and I think McCoy's going to have problems leading the Browns down the field and getting scores. He might get some decent yards, but I don't think he'll put a lot of points on the board. The flip side of it is Cleveland's been in every single game they've played this year. Their defense has been outstanding, and actually if they could cut down on the turnovers, they'd probably be winning a lot more games. But I think what you're going to see here is a typical Cleveland Browns game, which means they're going to be in it, but they won't score enough to get the job done and will probably lose the game. Margin of victory, I'm not so sure about that, but I'm looking more at the under in this game, guys. I think you'll see the Browns and Patriots play a fairly low-scoring game.
I pretty much agree with everything you just said. I mean, I could just say ditto and wrap it up right there. Cleveland had a bye week last week. 2 weeks ago after that game, my power ratings after that game, and then, of course, New England's power ratings before last week's game actually made New England a 6-point better football team on this particular football field than the Cleveland Browns. Now, the line's about 4.5, but I'm looking at an under. As you mentioned, Cleveland playing really well on defense. They fly to the ball almost as well as anybody in the league right now, and we've seen the under cash quite a bit with this team. But how about against the spread for the Cleveland Browns? Say what you want about the Browns before this turnaround has started to happen. The bottom line is they're 10-3 against the spread in their last 13 games. How about 6-1 at home against the spread? So I'm not going to go against Cleveland here. And I respect everything you said about the New England Patriots. Can you imagine, talk about getting drafted in the right spot. What if Tom Brady would have been drafted by the Houston Texans? Oh. I mean, all of a sudden he doesn't become the quarterback he is. But when these two are on the field at the same time, and I'm talking about Belichick on the sideline and Brady under center, they could beat anybody every single week, every single season. It's just an amazing situation that these two have, the symbiosis between Brady Brady and Belichick just work so well. But as far as this game's concerned, I agree with you. I'm going to take the under. The way this team's flying to the ball right now, I think they're going to make life a little bit tougher on New England than most people think.
I was just thinking something that you mentioned. It's teams, fortunes can change, or players' fortunes can change. What about Tom Brady? I mean, would he beat Tom Brady? I think it was Drew Bledsoe, right, that got injured in that season in around Game 5 or Game 6 of the year, and that's how Brady steps in and becomes the Superman that he is. But if that injury doesn't happen, who knows? Maybe his career takes a totally different course, and he never becomes this Super Bowl winning, quarterback that everyone thinks of him, as now. I mean, he's been very fortunate in an ironic sort of way that Bledsoe got injured in that season. But I'm going to step in here and take the Cleveland Browns. They're off the bye week, as Dave mentioned, and that's the key for me here, especially when you get bad teams off bye weeks. Last week we saw it with the Detroit Lions. They blow out the Washington Redskins. The previous week, the Buffalo Bills, the Carolina Panthers. Now this week we've got the Cleveland Browns off a bye week. And when you take a look at what teams with their win percentage less than 333 do off bye weeks, 57-25 against the spread versus an opponent off a straight-up win. Jim, it's all Cleveland here.
Again, these stats that you come up with are amazing. I absolutely agree with you. Cleveland in this spot, the dog off a bye week at home, and this has been a dog year in the NFL. Yes, we've had a couple of weeks where you've had a few more favorites cover. But, this New England team has changed a little bit. Since Randy Moss is gone, they're not spreading the field, and that's what everybody misses. I know that, Childress has waived him and everything else. But what they miss here, even though the guy's not catching a ball in the whole game, two guys are covering him. The whole offense, or the whole defense, is focused on what he's doing. Well, Moss is gone. Their offense has changed. They're using the tight ends more, and they're more of a control ball club. So you look for a totally different game plan by New England. We'll be right back.
Arkansas, South Carolina, TCU, Utah, Alabama, LSU, 3 of Saturday's biggest and best college football games, and all 3 are yours free on a recorded message. All you need to do is call my free pick phone right now, 1-888-633-1710. I'm going to give you the winners of all 3 of those games on the house, plus details on how to get my November college football game of the month. 22-7 on my last 29 college football games of the month. Details on how to get that game when you call my free pick phone. Get the TV triple header of the day loaded with dynamite information on those 3 huge games. Call now, 1-888-633-1710, and go 3-0 free.
The biggest players always zero in on the biggest games. And last week, I hit 2 big games I'm going to tell you about. But this week, I'm offering you a triple header of high roller releases. This is $1,500 of big games, and it's just yours for $10. Step out with the big players this weekend and go 3-0. I nailed the Raiders on Sunday and the Colts on Monday with these monster plays. Make sure you make the call, 1-866-841-1655. And don't forget, for free plays each and every day, just text WINNER, W-I-N-N-E-R, to 313131. You'll have winners sent to your phone each and every day. Have a huge weekend. Make the call, 1-866-841-1655. Play with the big boys and win big. And don't forget to text WINNER to 313131. Kansas City visits Oakland. Who could imagine? This is actually a very important game in this division. Now, Kansas City, the last 7 times they've been to Oakland, they've covered every one. That's right. And the series, 9 out of the last 10 games in this series have actually gone under the total, Dave.
Wow, and this is going to be a ground game slugfest. The Kansas City Chiefs have really established themselves as a running football. I love this, by the way, because I've always been a believer. You run the football and you stop the other team from running the football, you will be in every single game. It's an old school philosophy and it still works. You look at rushing stats in the NFL and in college football as well, and you find a team that outgains their opponent on the ground by 2 yards to 1. and you're going to have a dominant number straight up and against the spread. I don't know, teams have gotten away from running the football, but the Chiefs have established themselves as a running team, and that's why they made the turnaround. And Oakland's getting the ball to McFadden now, and they're turning things around as well. I think this is going to be a really fun football game. I'm going to go with another total here, because I do think this is a game where both teams are going to try and battle it out on the ground and see who can establish the ground game better. I'm not sold on either quarterback. Both Castle and Campbell are guys capable of making mistakes if you put the game in their hands. This game is going to be fun to watch, and it's going to be a war in the trenches, and I like this game to stay under the total, Al.
Well, I don't have an opinion on the total at all. I'm going to stay away from the over-under. One of the things I love to do, though, is take teams off point spread losses when they were favored the previous week by 7 or more points. That's the situation here. The Kansas City Chiefs last week against the Buffalo Bills were favored by 7. They only won that game 13-10. Very lucky to win that game as well. But teams bounce back off point spread failures as touchdown favorites. They're now 98-56 against the spread versus an opponent off a straight up and against a spread win. Oakland, of course, wins that 33-3 blowout last week. And I'm going to fade Oakland, but I'm going to take Kansas City to bounce back off that point spread failure. Take the Chiefs plus the points. Jim?
There's a few things.
Scott?
Yeah, what are you skipping me? There's a few things that I actually love. And I don't say love when it comes to football a whole lot, when it comes to handicapping and betting games. I love a cold-ass beer over a plate of Chinese food with a little bit of spiciness in there. And I rarely love an NFL football game, and I mean really love. You like it, but you don't love. I love this game. I love the side you're on here. Kansas City, to me, is in a great spot. You kind of hit it on the head there. Run the ball, stop the run, win games. Kansas City does all that. Oakland runs the ball. They don't stop the run. They're 26th in the league against the run. They give up almost 5 yards per carry. This Kansas City backfield and Charlie Weiss, the OC, they got to be licking their chops right now. Can't wait for this one to start. Now, I kind of jumped the gun with the Oakland Raiders. I had them in week 1, and I wrote an article about Hugh Jackson being one of the top hires going to the Oakland Raiders as offensive coordinator and what he was going to do to turn around that offense. And a lot of mixed, believe it or not, mixed looks on the offensive line. You always hear about multiple looks from blitz schemes on defense. He actually does that on offense. Pulls a little bit sometimes, straight up blocking sometimes. He'll look like he's going to have a pass blocking scheme on a running play. Really interesting stuff that he does up front with his offensive line. But Kansas City stuffs the run. Oakland's off those tremendous high-scoring wins the last couple of weeks. I think Kansas City's the real deal and shuts them down here. Now, I'm saying this, Jim, knowing that Oakland's about 5 plays away from being 7-1. Yeah. But the bottom line is, I think Kansas City's going to get it done. And Castle's been pretty good. 10-3 touchdown to INT ratio run over the last several games. I got to go with the Chiefs.
The addition of Charlie Weiss and Romeo Crennel has made a huge difference for Kansas City. Well coached now. We don't give a lot of credit to Todd Haley, the head coach, because they brought in these assistant coaches, and that's when the difference started. This is going to be a war. I agree with Dave on this. I like the under. We're coming right back with our best bets. The biggest players always zero in on the biggest games. And last week, I hit 2 big games I'm going to tell you about. But this week, I'm offering you a triple header of high roller releases. This is $1,500 of big games, and it's just yours for $10. Step out with the big players this weekend and go 3-0. I nailed the Raiders on Sunday and the Colts on Monday with these monster plays. Make sure you make the call, 1-866-841-1655. And don't forget, for free plays each and every day, just text WINNER, W-I-N-N-E-R, to 313131. You'll have winners sent to your phone each and every day. Have a huge weekend. Make the call, 1-866-841-1655. Play with the big boys and win big. And don't forget to text WINNER to 313131.
My best bet is going to take the Utah Utes as the home dog against TCU. Your best bet, my Fortune 500 Club Game of the Year. $500 online, but it's yours today for just $25. These plays now are documented. 78-38 in college football, lifetime. Call right now, toll free, 866-896-1628. Our TV offers this year 9-1, 90%. It's only $25 for a play that sold $500 online. We'll have a record number of calls online for that $500 play, but I want to have a record number of calls here as well for just $25. Call toll free, 866-896-1628. My Fortune 500 Club College Football Game of the Year. Call now.
Boy, there's some good games today. My best bet on the TV show is going to be Stanford minus the points to get the win and cover against Arizona. I normally have one free play each day on my free pick phone. Not today. 3 of the best games on TV on Saturday. Arkansas matching up with South Carolina. The duel in the Mountain West between unbeaten TCU and Utah. And then the SEC contest between Alabama and LSU. All 3 games are free on tape right now at 1-888-633-1710. Plus details on how to get my college football game of the month for November. 22-7 on my last 29 college games of the month. That information's on the free pick phone right now, along with those 3 outstanding selections. 1-888-633-1710.
You know, my best bet, I love it. The Kansas City Chiefs. I love a bunch of plays going on Saturday, especially my Morning Massacre Game of the Year 2010. 75% lifetime with these plays. It's all part of my $1 per day package in all sports for the month of November. Rest of November, 25 days for $25 in all sports. And it all starts right out of the blocks like Usain Bolt on Saturday morning with my big Morning Massacre Game of the Year in college football. Get them all. 25 days for $25. Call 1-866-896-1627. 1-866-896-1627.
Your best bet this week, or my best bet this week, is Arizona-Stanford to go over the total. Now, I have 2 best bets for you. Text WINNER, that's the word WINNER, WINNER, to 313131, and each and every day I'm going to send you a free play right to your cell phone. That's right, WINNER to 313131. Now, for the real big stuff, I got a triple header of high roller releases. It's $1,500 in value. It's yours for only $10. That's right. Last week, I had the Raiders on Sunday and the Colts on Monday night. Both huge winners. This week, I've got 3 big winners for you for $10. And all you have to do is call 1-866-841-1655. And don't forget, we're coming back next week with more action, more analysis, and more great winners. So come back and see you next week.